Hi, this is Alessio Rostaniov, Leading Trader. Hope you're well. I have an important prediction to make in this particular video. In fact, some of you might be surprised by what I'm about to say in this particular video. In fact, I'm also going to take a look in this video about what's happening behind the scenes, what traders are doing behind the scenes, and I'll show you what this means. Plus, I'm going to explain to you exactly what this chart here is telling us, something quite important about what's happening among people out there and what they're thinking about Bitcoin. So that's very interesting. I'll talk to you about that in just a few moments. Now, before I do that, first of all, I want to begin by doing a quick summary of what I've been saying in these videos for the last few months. I'd say for the last 6 to 10 months. And this is quite important, so do pay attention. You see, guys, back in September of last year, September 2017, when Bitcoin was trading about $3,000 or $3,500. So I posted this video, and here's what I said in that video. In that video, at the time, Bitcoin had a major drop. It fell from 5,000 to 3,000, almost to 3,000, as you can see there. Everybody suddenly turned against Bitcoin. In fact, everybody was bearish about Bitcoin, saying, oh, bad news and all that. I'll tell you what the bad news was in just a few moments. But here's the deal. I was one of the few people out there, one of the few voices out there who kept repeating that no, this drop was a buying opportunity. In fact, you can go ahead and watch the video again if you want. But what I said was that at this point, now is a good time to start loading up on Bitcoin because it's going to go to 5,000 as our first target, and potentially higher than 5,000. So that was back in September last year. I was bullish when everyone was bearish. By the way, would you like to know what the news networks were saying? The financial news networks like Bloomberg and even on some of the other channels, they were all bearish. Look at this article from Bloomberg. The summer of Bitcoin ends badly. This was posted just a few days before I posted my video. This was in September of 2017, as you can see right there. So again, what they were talking about was a ban on initial coin offerings. BBC was saying that the top Chinese Bitcoin exchange was to stop trading. And again, many people, I can tell you this much, guys, when I posted my video about Bitcoin going higher to 5,000, I got a lot of feedback from people saying, hey, Alessio, you got to be kidding. I mean, what about the Chinese news I've been hearing? And I said, and I'm repeating this, guys, I said, ignore the news, focus on the charts. The charts were telling us that the price of Bitcoin was going to go higher. And that's why I said, ignore the news. And what happened next? Well, as I'm sure most of you know, the rest is history. Bitcoin formed the bottom right there, the level I was talking about. And then, of course, it rallied higher from there. In fact, September was a major low for Bitcoin, as you can see there, at about the 3,000 levels there. Okay. In November of that same year, November of 2017, I made another video, as you can see right here. And I said why Bitcoin 10,000 is now unstoppable. I said what to do before Bitcoin hits $10,000. At the time I posted my video, Bitcoin was trading about $7,000. And here's what I said. I said, any potential pullbacks to $6,000 or $5,000 can be used as long or buying opportunities. The next long-term target is 10,000. And as I'm sure you know what happened next, my prediction turned out to be correct. And you can see there it is. Bitcoin dropped to 6,000, turned out to be a buying opportunity, and of course rallied nicely higher from there. So again, guys, bottom line is we ignored the news. We went with the charts. Now look at this. In this particular video I posted on 8th of December, I issued a strong warning against buying Bitcoin. All right. I said, look, it's a dangerous time to buy Bitcoin. And by the way, at that time when I posted the video, the Bitcoin prices were about $16,000 to $18,000. And I made a strong warning about Bitcoin. I said, look, now is not a good time. Why? Because the charts were telling us that we were reaching bubble territory. Bubble territory not seen since 2013. As you can see, that was in my video. And of course, you know the rest of it. Bitcoin then dropped about 50% and then 70% all the way down. And by the way, guys, just to be clear, I am not saying that I got every prediction right. Absolutely not. I'll tell you one thing. I did not foresee that Bitcoin was going to go from 10,000 to 20,000 in just a couple of weeks. I did not see that happening. It came as a shock to me, as it came as a shock to many other people out there. But what I am saying is this. The key point I want you to understand about this is that when you look at the chart of Bitcoin, or indeed any market, the first thing you should do is put away from your mind anything you're hearing in the financial media or the financial news networks. If anything, try and do the opposite of what these guys are saying. Now, let me ask you this question. What do you think right now is the major news story in the financial news networks? Are they positive or are they negative? I can tell you right now, you switch on any financial news network about Bitcoin, the majority are negative. Majority of people keep expecting that Bitcoin is going to fall lower to down to 3,000. Okay. Now, let me just show you this. This is from Google Trends. Let me just show you this first of all. This is quite important. Have a guess at what one of the top searches on Bitcoin right now is. Number 9 on the top 10 searches on Bitcoin is this: is Bitcoin dead? Guys, I'm not making this up. It's right there for you. This is the number 9th search on Google about Bitcoin. And by the way, in case you're thinking, what is the top 5? Well, here it is. Not really interesting. Bitcoin price right now, some other stuff here about the VIX and all that. But again, as you can see, that is it right there. Is Bitcoin dead is one of the top searches on Bitcoin right now. And by the way, look at this. This is the chart of that search. You can see right there, take a look at this. On June 24th, it reached a climax. That search for is Bitcoin dead reached a climax. And in case you're thinking, is that significant? Yes, it is. June 24th, when that search for Bitcoin being dead was a climax or reached the top, you can see, look at that. That was right about the time when Bitcoin was hitting these lows. And then, of course, it bounced from there. Okay, so you can see how psychology of people plays such an important part in price and also in what Bitcoin is doing. By the way, another search that's quite interesting. Take a look at this. One of the top searches on Bitcoin also is this. Take a look. How to short Bitcoin. Okay, so what's been gaining traction on Google searches is how to short. People are searching for this phrase, how to short Bitcoin, or bet against Bitcoin, in other words. And it's been getting a lot of traction here, as you can see. And that's been rising. Look at this. That search is now rising as I'm speaking. Okay, that's a red flag. Why are so many people looking up this phrase, how to short Bitcoin? So guys, remember, as a contrarian, when we see searches like this, how to short Bitcoin, is Bitcoin dead? That is a red flag. And it's a positive thing. It's a positive thing for Bitcoin. It's a bullish thing. So what does that mean? Does it mean we should just go in and buy Bitcoin right now? No, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that this is looking good for Bitcoin. The fact that sentiment is getting crushed. Everybody thinks that Bitcoin is going to go lower. In fact, I can tell you this much. I've received emails and comments from people saying that they're already short and they're already expecting $3,000 on Bitcoin. Now, let me say this. If everybody expects that to happen, if everybody's expecting the Bitcoin is going to drop and go to $3,000, then somebody is not thinking. And by the way, that is one of my favorite phrases from one of the best investors and traders in the world. Jim Rogers was a billionaire investor. He said this. He says, when everybody is thinking the same thing, somebody is not thinking. You should at least examine the other side. By the way, take a look at this. Behind the scenes, non-commercials are getting heavily short on Bitcoin. Look at that. This is the non-commercials. In other words, the dumb money. These are essentially trend followers. And let me just say this. Trend followers are usually on the wrong side of the market when the market reverses. When the market reverses, trend followers or non-commercials are on the wrong side the majority of the time. Look at this. They're heavily short right now. This data is according to the most recent and latest Commitment of Traders report. The next one will be published, I think, next week. But this certainly what we're seeing here is a lot of short positions on Bitcoin, which again gets me interested to have a look at the opposite side, the bullish case for Bitcoin. All right. And by the way, guys, I will say this. The fact that Bitcoin went below the lows of February, went below 6,000, and then quickly reversed direction and went back above it again, to me, I mean, that's a classic case of false breakout. And by the way, guys, if you haven't seen my previous video on false breakouts, then go ahead and watch it. It's certainly worth viewing. So the bottom line is this, guys. We got a false breakout by the looks of it, and we did not stay below 6,000 for very long before quickly jumping back above it again. Okay, so that's a positive sign for Bitcoin. And much more importantly is this. Take a look at the monthly time frame. This is the monthly chart of Bitcoin. Okay, now I mentioned this in last week's video, but I want to say it again because this is so important. Notice that after a huge rally we saw in Bitcoin last year, this drop we've seen here is nothing more than a correction down to the 21 monthly 21 average. Okay, let me repeat that. The drop, the 70% drop we've seen in Bitcoin, and the reason why I've refused to call this drop a bear market or a downward trend is because it's nothing more than a correction down to the 21 monthly average. Okay, that's the blue line you see there on my chart right there. Okay, and notice that we've held that support, we've held that 21 monthly average, which by the way is a key support level. It is no insignificant thing. It's very significant. It's very important. We've managed to bounce off that level. Let me just show you this. The 21 moving average is such an important level in technical analysis. Last year, in 2017, just take a look at this chart. Notice how many times price came down to its 21 moving average on the weekly charts and bounced from it. I actually think there's a high probability that Bitcoin is going to respect this level, this 21 monthly average, and you can see already it's managed to bounce from it, and I think we could see a potential rally from here, a potential rally from Bitcoin prices here, at the very least test some previous resistance. Don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying that Bitcoin is not going to rally all the way back up to 20,000, whatever, these previous levels back in January. No, I'm not willing to go that far just yet. Let's just try and keep it realistic for the moment. But I do think the fact that Bitcoin is now, for the moment, is respecting this 21 average, holding this support level is significant. And that's actually quite something to bear in mind, given the fact that right now people have turned against Bitcoin so dramatically. To me, I believe that this is now a moment where I would like to get bullish on Bitcoin. By the way, if I'm wrong about this, and if, for example, in the next few days or in the next couple of weeks, Bitcoin falls back below these support levels, then fine. You know what? You can come here below this comment section and just laugh at me in the comment section. That's fine, okay? I'm willing to be ridiculed and I'm willing to take your hate mail, whatever you want to do. That's fine by me. By the way, guys, before I finish this video, I want to make a very important point, which is this, that for professional investors and traders, being right or wrong doesn't actually matter. Of course, we want to be right. Don't get me wrong here. Of course, we all want to be right. We don't want to be wrong. But for professional investors and traders, being right or wrong is not important. What does matter is risk versus return. In fact, one of the best traders of all time, Larry Hite, said in the book Market Wizards, he said this, "Frankly, I don't see markets. I see risks, rewards, and money." That's it. Which means what? It means this. If a trader or investor were to buy Bitcoin right now, the risks for a professional investor would be this much. Okay, this much exactly, as you can see here, as I'm drawing in a box for you right here. That's the risk. Why? Because a professional investor would say, look, if I'm buying Bitcoin here, if it drops below 6,000, I will sell. In other words, I know I'm wrong at that point. I will just get out. The risk would be about 10%. But guess what? If we're right, the rewards are about 3 times the amount. If Bitcoin goes to 10,000, that is a return of nearly 3 times the amount of our risk. And of course, if Bitcoin goes all the way, let's say it goes all the way to, let's say, 15,000 to 20,000, then the risk return is even better. It's about 5 times the amount of risk. So remember, guys, for professional investors and traders, it's not about being right or wrong. That's not what counts. What counts is that you keep the risk small, as you can see here, and keep the rewards maximized, at least 3 times to 5 times the amount. Alright guys, I hope this video helps, and if you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, and also please remember to subscribe to our videos for future updates as well. Thanks very much indeed.